Okay, let's play the game some more. Here's a quote. One of the interviewed workers from June 1st. Last week, several fishermen working to clean up the Deepwater Horizon oil spill were hospitalized. The workers who had been working on boats off the Louisiana coast complained of dizziness, headaches, and nausea. Now, okay, this is more than a month before the last quotes that I just gave. This is June 1st. Another symptom, shortness of breath, nosebleeds. Okay, now remember these symptoms these people have said, because I'm going to try to wrap that up into something that you're not going to believe. More symptoms. Started to experience severe headaches, nasal irritation, nosebleeds, an upset stomach, aches everywhere. Okay, a little bit sounds like the flu, except nosebleeds with the flu? I don't think so. I don't think that works. So now let's go to an expanded list as of August 12th that I've put together along with my fantastic producer who I asked to help me out with doing some of this research, Liz, and I'm going to try to get her on in the last 5 minutes. So thank you, Liz, for putting this together. Here is an expanded list of all the symptoms of those who firsthand reported them in the Gulf of Mexico. And again, this is from 10 miles inland all the way to those on the boats. Severe headaches, respiratory problems, extreme gagging and coughing, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, sore, swollen throats, difficulty breathing, chest congestion, chemically induced pneumonia, loss of consciousness, yes, collapsing, same thing as lost consciousness, elevated blood pressure, chronic fatigue, weakness, flu-like symptoms. We're past that. Impaired memory, lethargic, a wet hacking cough, dizziness, burning eyes. Now listen to these testimonies. Here's one August 11th. But on the morning of June 10th, okay, this was published August 11th. She's talking about June 10th. She collapsed on a beach unconscious. She had been feeling ill with symptoms which are indicative of chemical exposure. She was taken to the Coastal Work Institute where the doctor spent 45 minutes explaining how she needed to sign off on her injury as heat stroke in order to avoid bad publicity and possible beach closures. Mrs. Hill, and this is Robin Hill, by the way, the one who made this testimony, she refused to cooperate. She remains very ill, and the local physicians are unsure how to treat her condition. Dr. Ricky Ott has been instrumental in connecting Robin and many others with specialists around the country for advice and treatment for chemical exposure, if that's all it was. Charles Hamilton and I spoke at length with Robin Hill regarding her experience in health. Okay, this is off an article. We became aware the oil was coming in, and the city of Gulf Shores was going to keep it hush-hush, and that we were not supposed to say anything. Over that weekend, when I came back on Monday, all my officers are telling me now this comes from a lifeguard and city official. I had to back up there. That they were getting sick over the weekend. They saw people vomiting, that they themselves were vomiting. They were having a really hard time going through the process of working, and the question was, what should they do about it? He talked to one of his workers. He went to City Hall about it. There's OSHA, who didn't want to do anything, but now he's saying, but now I'm getting headaches. Tuesday and Wednesday, all of a sudden I'm vomiting. I go home and I'm getting sick. I'm driving home from work and I'm getting sick in the new Publix grocery store parking lot, thinking, what the hell is happening to me? Now, I'm sorry, this is one of the lifeguards on the beach. And then lifeguard goes on to say, I know for a fact my other guys are getting sick. Macho big guys are getting sick. So it's not just me. So we go through that process, and I'm telling them over and over, again that everybody's getting sick. The next week goes by and nothing. Everybody's still getting sick. People are getting transferred off of our area of the beach. The next week comes around, and again, Monday, Tuesday, nothing happens. Wednesday comes, and I pass out. I passed out. And it goes on to say, nowhere else to breathe. He was in the lifeguard hut. Nowhere else to breathe, and it knocked him out. Said, I'm 158. All of a sudden, when they do come, and his fellow lifeguards, and, they call the 911, and they come over, and the paramedics take his blood pressure. He's 158 over 100. He's normally 120 over 100. Okay, something going on there. And this went on for weeks. Okay. Extremely sick to the point where I can only work a couple of hours a day before I collapse in utter exhaustion. Hello, this is a lifeguard. This is somebody who is extremely good physical condition, to the point where I can't work a couple hours a day, only a couple hours a day. I just collapse in utter exhaustion from coughing and flu-like symptoms. I have no voice. It's totally wrecking my business. I can't function. I can't remember half what I'm supposed to do. I have constantly written notes to myself. I'm not able to go out and take care of anything. Another one. I have a sore throat. The sore throat went away from just being sore to feeling like you had a sock stuffed down your throat. A gagging reflex. Then it went to headaches, nausea, vomiting, occasional diarrhea, extremely lethargic, memory loss, to a horrible wet hacking cough. Literally made my entire body so sore from coughing so bad that it's really hard to function. I'm just not going to get all this out. Okay, I got to go to what's really important. I have an interview through a friend, and this is one of the boat owners. It was a three-way phone call, and let me just tell you what went on. One of the boat owners was owned by a Vietnamese refugee. Detailed how the 55-gallon drums that were on his boat that he had been instructed to spray, and he had been doing this already for a couple of weeks. The drums have no markings on them. It doesn't say corrects it or anything else. He was under contract with BP until yesterday, and I spoke with him on August 12th. So he was under contract with BP until August 11th. He said they were contracted to pump dispersant along the border coastline of Mississippi and Alabama. They were told it was an oil dispersant. They were doing it every night, not during the day, since May 5th until 4 days ago, which would have been August 8th. 3 weeks ago, while they were setting up the screw-in outlet hose on one of the drums that held this dispersant, supposedly, the helmsman, that's the guy steering the boat, the helmsman made a sharp turn to avoid something that was seen unexpectedly by him. They found out later on when he made the turn, and up alongside the boat on the starboard side was a dead porpoise. So that's what he was trying to avoid. Anyway, the drum started to tip over when he made that maneuver. The contents just splashed on the undocumented crewman who was just about to screw in the fitting for the disbursement hose. Within minutes after they secured the fitting, the crew member who got the contents all over his arms and face went into foaming convulsions. In other words, he was foaming out of his mouth. The bottom line is he died just 2 hours later, and they got right after they got him back to the dock. Now, listen to what he told me. On the way to port, this man who was splashed with the contents out of this drum that was supposed to be just dispersant, he complained of numbness in his arms, face, and legs. He turned red all over. Then his lips, fingers, toes, and even his ears turned dark blue, almost purple. His eyes looked like red spider webs. He was bleeding from his nose and mouth. Now, this is right before they got to the dock. He was bleeding from his nose and mouth. He was bleeding from his rectum. Now, he had clothes on, so, he must have been bleeding enough they could see that through his clothes. He couldn't catch his breath, and they were absolutely frantic, all the other crew members, including the captain, because there was nothing they could do. They doused his arms with water, seawater, fresh water, wherever the chemicals spilled on him, and they said it made him scream louder. Now, that's weird. The ambulance waiting at the dock was instructed to take him not to the hospital, but to a contracted BP clinic. He died, according to what they said to me, he died at the clinic, and they claimed he had a heart attack. He was 25 years old. Again, he was an undocumented worker. But he had a heart attack at 25 after he got spilled with something in the drums. So all the crew members of that particular boat, they all have had and still are experiencing nosebleeds. Their extremities are numb on and off. Their lips go blue, their fingers go blue, their toes go blue, on and off. One has bleeding in his ears and in his rectum since that day. And he made a point of telling me, all those who have these nosebleeds and the numbness, and even the one who has the bleeding in his ears and in his rectum, they were never splashed with a chemical directly. Yet they inhaled the fumes when they were trying to help the guy, the undocumented worker who died and got splashed with it. They weren't splashed with it. So no wonder the military is guarding what they're calling Corexit at the airports. I have some friends. Just go to the municipal and county airports from Louisiana to Mississippi, Alabama, and the panhandle of Florida. Why do they have warehouses with MPs? If it's just dispersant, why do they need MPs and National Guard troops to guard it? What is so secretive? Well, Blue Plague, perhaps. I wasn't kidding when I called it Blue Plague. I chose that name for a reason. I'm going to turn around and I can't finish this tonight. I'm just going to tell you, tomorrow night, I know it's supposed to be a call-in show. You better listen, because tomorrow night I'm going to tell you what these symptoms that I've described to you in the last half hour, what these symptoms are the same as. And it's a certain virus, actually it's a certain strain of viruses that are lethal. And I'm not saying that what they're spraying might be these viruses, but I will match up every single symptom, especially with the bleeding and the numbness and these things tomorrow night. I don't have the time to get into it. If I turn around and tell you what I have matched up with symptoms and just leave it there without explaining it to you, I want you to know. You just have to know exactly why these symptoms are from a very dangerous hemorrhagic fever and virus. Hemorrhagic means that you bleed. And you just heard me read the so-called blue flu symptoms. Well, I was going to have my producer come online. I really appreciate everybody listening tonight. I will finish this tomorrow evening. Thank you for listening. It's really been a blessing to speak to everyone. God bless. With the flu? I don't think so. I don't think that works. So now let's go to an expanded list as of August 12th that I've put together along with my fantastic producer who I asked to help me out with doing some of this research, Liz, and I'm going to try to get her on in the last 5 minutes. So thank you, Liz, for putting this. Okay, Let's play the game some more. Here's a quote. One of the interviewed workers from June 1st. Last week, several fishermen working to clean up the Deepwater Horizon oil spill were hospitalized. The workers who had been working on boats off the Louisiana coast complained of dizziness, headaches, and nausea. Now, okay, this is more than a month before the last quotes that I just gave. This is June 1st. Another, pneumonia, loss of consciousness, yes, collapsing, same thing as lost consciousness, elevated blood pressure, chronic fatigue, weakness, flu-like symptoms. We're past that. Impaired memory, lethargic, a wet hacking cough, dizziness, or symptoms, shortness of breath, nosebleeds. Okay, now remember these symptoms these people have said, because I'm going to try to wrap that up into something that you're not going to believe. More symptoms. Started to experience severe headaches, nasal irritation, nosebleeds, an upset stomach, aches everywhere. Okay, a little bit sounds like flu, except nosebleeds together. Here is an expanded list of all the symptoms of those who firsthand reported them in the Gulf of Mexico. And again, this is from 10 miles inland all the way to those on the boats. Severe headaches, respiratory problems, extreme gagging and coughing, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, sore, swollen throats, difficulty breathing, chest congestion, chemically induced